Hi, I'm Mark, and I like to talk about UK politics and Brexit from an outside view. Although I do know the UK from the inside as well, so don't worry. It sounds grotesque that the good news for Europe comes from the breakaway island almost exactly 8 years after the Brexit referendum. However, Labour's election victory in Great Britain is a signal of hope that the political centre of reason has not yet capitulated to national populism. And if you want to gauge the true significance of the election result in the United Kingdom, you have to see it in the context of an impending shift to the right in other countries like America, but France gave us a nice lesson this weekend as well. The fact that a large majority of Britons are opting for a centre-left government at this time of discontent offers the moderate forces a unique opportunity to show that the current challenges can be better met with reason, pragmatism and tolerance than with radical pseudo-solutions from the populists. But that is no guarantee that Labour will take this opportunity. The problems are too big, and the support that the new government in London has among its own population, despite its absolute majority in Parliament, is too low. Labour leader Keir Starmer is still the new British Prime Minister. He was against Brexit, but hardly mentioned leaving the EU during the election campaign. But how will he revive relations with the EU? The Labour Party won the election in Great Britain by a large margin and secured an absolute majority in the House of Commons, as I said. And with its party leader Keir Starmer, a Social Democrat will be the first Prime Minister in 14 years. The Conservative Tories fundamentally changed the United Kingdom during their time in government. They led the country out of the European Union. Relations with the Union have been strained ever since, and Labour politician Starmer was against the Brexit referendum in 2016. However, he said noticeably little about the issue during the entire election campaign. And most recently, Starmer ruled out a return to the customs union and the single market, although the discussion is in vain anyway. There are many things he didn't mention that need to be addressed, says Dimitri Zengelis, the economist and Brexit expert at the London School of Economics. It will be much more difficult for Starmer to stimulate the economy if the United Kingdom remains outside the European Union and its single market, according to him. The widespread impression is that Starmer did not address the consequences of Brexit in the election campaign in order to win votes from the Conservatives, who are dissatisfied with the governing Tories because of the numerous crises. At the top of the list of problems are long waiting times for medical examinations and high living costs. Starmer was ahead in the polls and therefore did not want to address an issue that could harm him. That was also the opinion of Mike Galsworthy, the chairman of the European Movement UK pressure group, in an interview with German media. The pressure group campaigns for better relations with the EU, and Galsworthy believes, however, that pressure from companies, economists, and those who voted against leaving the EU in 2016 could ultimately persuade Starmer to address the issue. Labour may have drawn red lines, says Galsworthy, referring to the explicit refusal to rejoin the single market. But various groups will put pressure on those lines as people demand answers and a higher standard of living. Many believe that Britain must urgently reorient its relationship with the EU in order to boost the British economy. However, estimates of the extent of the damage caused by Brexit vary widely. It is undisputed that the bureaucratic burden and cost for British companies have increased. In addition, trade between the United Kingdom and its largest trading partner has declined, and various figures confirm this. According to the British National Institute for Economic and Social Research, the British economy has shrunk by 2 to 3% since Brexit. By 2035, the figure is expected to rise to 5 to 6%. And a study by the independent economic institute Cambridge Econometrics comes to the conclusion that investment in the United Kingdom will fall by a third by 2035 as a result of Brexit, which will lead to 3 million fewer jobs. This study was commissioned by London Mayor Sadiq Khan, also from the Labour Party. That's part of the truth. And according to the accounting firm Menzies, 1 in 5 British companies wants the new government to return to the single market. But they should tell me how they want to do that. According to the British Chamber of Commerce, 2/3 of British companies that traded with the EU last year found the procedures cumbersome. And the Chamber is an association and lobby group for British companies. Almost half of the companies surveyed by the Chamber did not believe that Brexit had promoted their growth. On the contrary, 41% said that Brexit had made it more difficult to buy and sell goods in the EU. Leaving the EU has made it more expensive and bureaucratic to sell our goods and services across the channel, said Siobhan Haviland, the Director General of the British Chamber of Commerce, at its annual conference. We need to start calling a spade, she said. And Anand Menon, Professor of European Politics at King's College London and Director of the think tank UK in a Changing Europe, nevertheless does not expect a major overhaul of the existing relationship. Starmer wants very little, he explains. And one thing is clear. The Labour Party wants to improve the trade and cooperation agreement between the EU and the United Kingdom. That was signed by then Prime Minister Boris Johnson at the end of 2020. But 2 proposed changes are undisputed: a veterinary agreement to reduce red tape and border controls for animal products, and the mutual recognition of professional qualifications would just be an appendix, not a change. The issue of defense is not so simple. However, the Labour Party manifesto also calls for a new defense pact between the UK and the EU with a view to collective security, but also to the European Defence Fund. A recently published paper by the Tony Blair Institute for Global Change states that the comprehensive agreement in this area could enable full participation in EU defence procurement initiatives such as the European Defence Fund. But not everyone believes that Brussels will agree. As far as the economic side of defence is concerned, says Menon of King's College, I'm not sure the EU will play along, and I'm quite on his side there. There's also a need for regulation on the issue of freedom of travel. The Tory government had tried to sign agreements of the mobility of young people with selected European countries. And in April this year, the EU Commission protested against the unequal treatment of Europeans. It wanted to offer its own version of a program that would have given young people more freedom to travel, work and study between the EU and the UK. The Conservative government of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak rejected the proposal in advance before it was even sent, but it was finished, I have to say. But the Labour Party did not object. London Mayor Khan had declared before the election that he would work to promote youth mobility. And Starmer said he would look into how musicians and artists from the UK could travel to the EU without a visa. But on major issues, the EU does not seem willing to make significant concessions. The UK cannot enjoy the benefits of the single market if it is not part of it, is what an industry expert in Europe said to German media. And this because this could set a bad precedent, and we cannot afford that in a union of 27 countries. And he's absolutely right. And you always hear my remarks about the single market and customs union, that there is not a real possible way at the moment for the UK just to join the customs union or the single market, even if Starmer wanted. That boat has sailed after Brexit. They could have done this in the negotiations at the time, but now I don't see any possibility for that. And any real renegotiation of the TCA will not happen either. I don't see anybody on the EU side willing to do so. So there will be possibilities for some small appendixes, and the veterinary agreement is one of these things that doesn't change the TCA. If the British take the EU standards, of course it's possible to reduce the checks there, but no big changes unless they want to do something very different, which nobody expects to happen. And if you want to know more, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.